Before Greece became an idea, it was a landscape, a patchwork of mountains, islands, and shining bays. Each valley, each harbour, held a people who called themselves free. They did not serve one king or one crown, but the rhythm of their land and the will of their gods. Here in Athens, the air buzzed with argument and ambition. Ideas were traded as easily as olives and wine. A man's worth wasn't measured by birth or blood, but by how he spoke in the assembly. The city became a living mind, curious, loud, and alive. But not all of Greece lived by debate. Far to the south, Sparta worshipped silence, strength, and sacrifice. From childhood, boys were molded into soldiers. Women were raised to bear warriors. In Athens, freedom was a right. In Sparta, it was earned through blood. When Persia came with fire and thunder, Greece forgot its quarrels. Across the Aegean rolled an empire vast enough to drown the world, and yet, for a brief moment, the Greeks stood as one. Farmers, poets, and kings alike took up their shields. On the shores of Marathon and the gates of Thermopylae, bronze walls met the tide. The phalanx was Greece's heartbeat, a single will forged from many. Shoulder to shoulder, they proved that courage could outshine any crown. The invaders withdrew, but victory came with a whisper of danger. For in triumph, the Greeks discovered power, and in power, envy. The moment of unity faded like mist in the morning sun. With Persia defeated, Athens rose higher than ever. Under Pericles, marble became poetry. The Parthenon reached for heaven, a monument not to a god, but to human ambition. In the Agora, philosophy was sport. Words were spears, and ideas were armor. The mind itself became Greece's new battlefield. Athens claimed it led the Greek world by right of intellect and courage. But behind its ideals was empire, and beneath its pride, fear. In Sparta, no man lived for himself. Every breath served the state. Where Athens built temples, Sparta built warriors. The elders saw Athens' splendor as arrogance. They believed freedom without order was chaos, a disease that must be contained. And so, as Athens built its empire, Sparta sharpened its spears. Two worlds, two destinies, bound for collision. When war came, it was not sudden. It was inevitable. The proud cities that once stood together now turned their fury inward. Brother against brother, teacher against student. Greece devoured itself. Athens trusted the sea, but even Poseidon turned his gaze away. The waters that once brought trade now carried fire. Sparta struck with a vengeance fueled by silence. As siege and famine ravaged the city, plague came like a final judgment. The streets that once echoed with philosophy now filled with cries of the dying. The empire of thought became a city. At last, Sparta stood victorious, but over ashes. The war had consumed everything: crops, pride, and sons. The victors walked among ruins, wondering what they had won. The land was silent, except for the wind and the mourning of mothers. Even in triumph, Sparta's glory faded. Its armies were weary, its coffers empty. The walls it never built could no longer keep despair away. And while it tried to rebuild, a new hunger stirred beyond the mountains. The statue that once symbolized strength now lay broken, its face lost to time. In victory, Greece had slain its own spirit. The gods of marble watched in silence. From the north came a new kind of ruler, Philip of Macedon. He studied Greece's brilliance and its weakness. Where Athens had poets, he had soldiers. Where Sparta had pride, he had purpose. Philip forged an army of iron discipline. Spears twice as long, ranks twice as deep. Against such unity, the divided city-states were powerless. Greece, once teacher to the world, now became the pupil of its conqueror. Under the flicker of candlelight, the fate of Greece was redrawn in ink. Yet destiny had greater plans. A son who would make the world itself Greek. Alexander's conquests spread Greek language and art across continents, but at home, the old cities withered. Athens became a museum of its own greatness, a place where tourists came to walk among memories. Once, the gods had spoken through temples. Now, only silence answered prayers. The marble cracked, but the stories carved upon it refused to die. And so, one by one, the last sons of Greece left their homeland, not in conquest, but in search of meaning. What remained was not a nation, but a legend. Years later, a man named Thucydides set down the tale. He wrote not of heroes or gods, but of men, their ambition, their fear, their pride. He warned that great nations are not destroyed by enemies, but by themselves. His words outlived the empires they described. They became mirrors for every civilization that thought itself untouchable. Thousands of years later, Greece still speaks. Its ruins whisper lessons to our glass cities. They remind us that progress without unity is only the beginning of another fall. As dawn breaks over the Parthenon, the ghosts of Greece rise with the sun. Warriors, poets, and thinkers, their echoes carried on the wind. Though their bodies have turned to dust, their spirit climbs the sky, gilded in light and memory. The stones still stand. The words still echo. What Greece built was never meant to fade. It was meant to ascend. Every generation walks these ruins and feels the same pull, to question, to create, to rise. That is Greece's true immortality. Centuries have passed, yet Greece still speaks, not through kings or battles, but through what it left behind. In polished bronze and faded stone, the spirit of a people endures. Visitors look upon these relics and see reflections of themselves, dreamers, builders, and thinkers reaching for the divine. Civilizations rise and crumble. But Greece became an idea. And ideas never die. From scattered islands to shattered empires, the Greeks taught us that greatness is fragile, and that even when marble breaks, the spirit carved within it endures. This is the story of how Greece fell, and how its light still burns.